please everyone know that this is not very well rehearsed presentation. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to run into hiccups or if this is going to be just like easy peasy. I'm working on a PC computer, and I don't really know in what ways this works different on a Mac. But those of you guys who are using OS X systems, if you just, perhaps occasionally unmute yourself and say, hey, it looks different on my computer, blah, 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 like that would make the recording all the more valuable in case somebody else who's not on a PC is running into something slightly different, and maybe you can chime in. But I'm going to be working from I just did a Google search for Vesper read the docs to get to this page. It seems that the installation of Vesper instructions are the same no matter if you click the option for the latest version or the stable version. So I'm on a computer where I have already installed the Anaconda prompt, the whole Anaconda system. And so the Anaconda prompt, I think on Windows, you can just search the programs for Anaconda, and it gives you this prompt, which I've stickied down here on my bar. So I just, this is the sort of command line Anaconda window. There's also a part of it that sort of has more clickable menus, sort of user interface. But I think we're supposed to just copy this exact bit of code. I have updated Python and updated Anaconda. I have a different environment created for an older version of Vesper on this machine. But I think what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to copy this text but into this prompt and hit enter. And it asks me if I want to proceed, and I push Y, and then it starts doing stuff. So I don't know if that was adequate instructions, but all I've done is Google search for Vesper read the docs, and then I click on the first link. I clicked on latest, and then I scrolled down into installing Vesper, and then I copied create a new conda environment for Vesper and install a Python interpreter in it by issuing the command blah 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 by just pasting it into the Anaconda box and hitting enter. And we're pretty much there. It says to activate this environment, use conda activate Vesper blah blah blah.
So mine, I'm getting an error. It says conda SSL error, encountered an SSL error, most likely a certificate verification issue. So I copied and pasted, it said failed, and then I got this SSL error, and I have no idea what that means.
Either do I, but if you copy the exact error code
Mhm.
and either put it into an email to me or put it in the chat,
Okay.
I'll ask Harold. Probably
Okay.
emailing it to me is best.
Yeah.
You can see my last name on Zoom, and then the number 9. So GYEKIS9@gmail.com.
Okay, wait. This was too fast. Yeah. Sorry, say that again.
So my last name GYEKIS.
Okay.
And then the number 9.
Okay.
@gmail.com.
Okay.
If you send me, I don't care, screenshots or
Sure.
copy paste of your errors or whatnot, then I'll forward it to Harold so that you and him can talk directly. Usually he will know, I won't, and usually he likes to know what problems people run into so that he can fix it, or sometimes it's something about your computer that he can't fix, but other times he knows exactly, oh, it's because X.
What is the difference between the prompt and the PowerShell prompt?
So Windows PowerShell is not going to be using Anaconda. It's just going to be using Windows.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you're in the Anaconda prompt
Yeah, okay, that's the
on
one I
that.
am in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so much for that. That's usually the kind of luck I have when I go to install anything. So it's
my first time through with Vesper, that happened to me. And then Harold got me over the hump
Okay.
after the fact. But then I tried another computer and it went fine. So I don't know quite what it was.
Yeah, if it's a SLL certificate error, it could be just an issue with Anaconda rather than an issue with Vesper. So I did a little Googling. I don't know if this will help or not, but I plopped something in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
And I'm also having to use MiniConda. I tried installing Anaconda and I couldn't even get the installer. The installer kept failing. So, and I tried some older versions and the older versions failed as well. So I don't know what's going on.
Are you running out of space on your machine? Because that happened to me before.
No, I honestly, I don't know. Okay, remind me, I'm just not terribly familiar with Windows 10. Remind me where to find that information on my system.
So
I don't want to hijack this this
no, it's
tutorial.
cool. It's cool. So I went to like
If
you
I
know,
click on,
any Windows browser, and I went to the C drive and I say properties. So if you can find your way to this
Okay.
PC where it has the C drive,
okay, hold on.
and then see how much used versus free space you've got.
Okay, C drive, here we go. Oops. Okay, hold on here. Oh, it's so slow. Something's going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't act this slow in the fall. So okay, hold on. So I'm getting to where did you go? So I've opened up the Windows C drive.
Actually, what I did is I actually right-clicked on the icon for the C drive and said properties.
Okay, properties. Okay, here we go. Okay.
And then it might.
What am I looking for?
If you see on my screen, it says use space and free space.
Oh shit. Okay, well I've got wow. Wow. I mean, I only use this computer for nocturnal flight calls, and it says I've used 395 gigabytes and I've got 69 gigabytes left. So maybe, yeah, maybe I've got a space issue going on here.
If you have 69 gigabytes left, you don't sound like you ran out yet.
No, but yeah.
But so I would say, Angela, very important, since you've just been doing a bunch of system updates, is I would probably do another restart and another attempt post restart, and it might clear everything up.
Okay.
So I would even consider the restart and let it totally boot up and sit quietly for a couple minutes, and then restart again.
Okay.
Because that has cleared up so many of my problems in the past.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm not gonna ask any more questions right now. You go ahead.
Yeah. Onward. Cool. So now I'm going to activate my environment. I'm going to copy and paste this thing. And that is just the next little line of code, and say enter, and that's instantaneous. But you can see that after I've activated my environment, it says on the left, it says Vesper or blah, blah, blah. So now anything I do is going to be in that environment. And that environment has a fresh new Python installation. And now that I'm in that fresh zone, I'm going to have a Vesper installation by copying the next little line of code, pip install Vesper SciPy. And let's see if it needs a Y. Looks like that's taking about 10 seconds to download Vesper, and about 10, probably more than 10 seconds for SciPy Science Python package. And TensorFlow, this is a package that's used a lot for machine learning, computer vision stuff. And so that's a bigger one and space intensive.
I will say while that's loading, to buy you some time there. I ran this last week. I got all the way through it, and then I did bird box detect as well. And you know, I mentioned at the start of this, just talking to you, Joe, that I had a long-billed curlew last night fly over, and so I downloaded a clip of it and ran it through bird box detect in this Anaconda environment. And it thinks it's a thrush. It thinks everything I put in is a thrush. So I'm certainly hoping Vesper or the new bird box is going to be a lot better, because currently it's pretty useless for me.
Yeah, I found that the past detectors were only useful for separating bird from non-bird and had no ID value for me. But the new I shouldn't say the newest. I think it's like 2 generations old already. But Benjamin was running his newer version. I don't know that his newer version has any more long-billed curlews in it than the last one. And
it does.
I heard with Merlin that without like 50 independent recordings of each call type, that's what you need for it to start to get good when they're distinct calls.
Mm.
And it might be more when they're very subtle differences. But anyway, so I don't know if it'll be better, but
See,
you know, I think if you can contribute a table of recordings of long-billed curlews to Benjamin, he can add them to the model.
yeah, he has all of my detections ever. He put like
good.
7 to 10% of the data that went into this building. This is my data from the West, which was what we were hoping to help out with.
Scratch that. He's got tons of long-billed curlew, exactly how it sounds.
Well, I wouldn't say tons, but he's got at least 50.
50.
Yeah, I have a question. Are they using the data being given and put into the AI program or programming? Is it daytime or is it nocturnal?
It's nocturnal. So Benjamin's model is a nocturnal model, and it's classified in part by volunteers, but he double checks almost everything. And him and Andrew Farnsworth are pretty elite earbirders. So yeah, but you know, if there are misconceptions among us birders and Benjamin and Andrew, then maybe that's perpetuated into the model for sure.
Well, how do they tell the difference between, warbler, ascending seats and descending seats on the warblers?
They just classify them as Zeep or, double up or whatever. They're not assigning every single call to species. They're assigning the distinct calls to species.
Because I've been trying to collect as many daytime contact calls as I can, where I know the species.
Yeah, and I mean, Bill Evans and Michael O'Brien have been doing that for 20, 30 years. And obviously some of them, if there are any differences, they're extraordinarily subtle and they can't learn them in 20, 30 years. I'm not.
Yeah, I noticed. Yes. Some of them are just almost impossible to well, at least at this moment, maybe a program, maybe something's coming down the line that'll help us with that.
As an animal behaviorist, by training, I want to see the psychophysics. Oh, by the way, mine finished, but I want to see the psychophysics on the birds. I want to see, does an orange-crowned warbler respond differently to a double up from a Nashville versus an orange-crowned? And if there's no difference behaviorally in response, then probably they're just using the same call. I don't know. Anyway.
That's a good point.
So I installed Vesper. And I'm not kind of, as our intervening conversation has insinuated, I'm not super excited about installing BirdVox Detect because I'm looking forward to the next generation, and it's so close that I'm not going to do that. But as you can tell, all you have to do is just copy paste, in order, and hit enter, and wait, and hit enter and wait, and then you'll have it. So that's the installation. I guess it took 15 minutes, even with our quick little question from Andrea. But after installation, then you start to get into, okay, how do we actually put this to use? My original plan for setting up the meeting was that we could go over how to actually use an installed Vesper in the next meeting, in part because I haven't used it for a while and I'm a little rusty on my own mind. But I thought that we could at least do, or at least attempt to set up some of the background information about creating the archive and adding a user to the archive. So I wanted to do these steps and at least start the server. So I had just from the previous install page, I had just clicked next. And basically what you have to understand is that there's going to be an archive on your computer, and the archive is going to be where you store your recordings, and where, when a Vesper runs and makes stuff like a table of, these are the timestamps, or these are the extracted little segments of sound that have, your things, and these are your annotations, and what you said was a Swainson's thrush, and what you said was a long-billed curlew, or whatever. All that stuff gets saved into your archive, but it kind of runs in a computer browser like you're on a website, but instead of accessing the web, it's just accessing a little part of your computer. Angela?
Yes, sorry. I have a quick question. I don't know if this is the time to ask it. What is everybody using for recording software, for example? So like I'm just using, I think, iSound. Does it matter what recording software you're using? Like, are we importing WAV files into Vesper? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing or what we're talking about.
I'm importing WAV files.
Okay.
And I assume anything that records in WAV is going to be fine.
Okay.
Vesper can, and this is something I've never done, but Harold told me it's easy to do in Vesper now, is that you can use Vesper to schedule the recordings. And the really slick thing that I've always wanted that I don't have is I want to be able to start and end the recording according to the sunset and sunrise times at my local site. And so I always have to keep changing my thing to be like, oh, it's getting to be summer. I need to start recording at 4 instead, or you know what I mean? Like everything's changing, and I have to fix it every few weeks or every few months, depending. And so it'll be nice to just set it as, oh, I want to just record nocturnal twilight to nocturnal, or astronomical twilight, astronomical dawn. So you might find that you'll be able to create recordings with Vesper and save yourself a step. But I use a free program called FFmpeg, and I have YouTube videos that show how to do that on Windows. That would assume that you have your 21C mic running straight into your computer.
Yep.
And so I have, it goes from the mic to the amp, and from the amp to a little USB sound card into my USB port on my laptop. And then I have a little program script that's a Windows batch file, and I have instructions on YouTube. I can send you the link. It's actually in that that thing. So anyway, yeah, that's one way. Yeah, let's talk about how to download the Vesper archive template by clicking that link. And this is in a zip. So I think I can copy this template onto my desktop. And inside there, the YAML is sort of the instructions, the presets. We'll get into that later. Archive settings and preferences, but this is, I've been keeping it on my desktop, but I think you can put it in anywhere. But this is sort of the file structure for your local materials. this should create an archive called the archive template. It's just a folder that has, you know, metadata, YAML, presets, this thing. So you can name the archive directory whatever you want. And I'm putting it on my desktop. So yeah, now we need to open a Windows Anaconda prompt or Unix terminal and activate your Vesper Conda environment with a command. Conda activate Vesper, and it's 0.4.12 if I have my good old memory working. Oh, it's right there beside me. Yeah, 0.4.12. So I've already activated it. Mine's already active. That's why you can tell it's active, because it says so right here. So the fact that I can find what it is tells me since I'm still got it open from our previous activation, I'm good. And then now I have to put in, I have to change the directory to my location. So mine says C users Henry desktop, and mine doesn't say tutorial archive. Mine says archive template, but maybe I should change it. Maybe I should call it, so my neighborhood is called Crumrine. So I'm going to call it Crumrine archive. And so now I'm not going to actually run Nora desktop, but I'm instead going to call it, and I have to get in here. And obviously this looks optimized for PC. How this differs for a Mac user, I don't quite know what, like, do your slashes even work the same? I don't know anything about how you do stuff in Mac. But anyway, now I'm changing my directory. So instead of instead of being C users Henry, it'll be C users desktop Crumrine archive. Cool. So now I'm in my Vesper environment. I'm running things in my archive so that now anything that I create, like my user profile and whatnot, will be right in there. And oh, I was saying I didn't know how to do it for Mac, but that's what it looks like for Mac. Oh, yes. And now I create the super user. Sounds very cool. And by the way, you're probably working all by yourself on your little computer, and having different user accounts for different people might sound stupid to you. At least it did to me when I was first starting on Vesper. But Harold's long-term vision of collaborative work and us to be able to, like, maybe I could help to identify some of your calls, or Jacob could help with some of mine, or whatever, that we might be able to have some cloud-based stuff in the future, and interactive shared group projects. So this is going to be smart if we ever collaborate, for sure. Anyway, I'm going to say as a command, Vesper admin create super user, and hit enter. Crap. It said couldn't load dynamic library, but maybe I don't care. Username, leave blank to use Henry, or I could put in a username. You guys are going to be privy to my top secret username being Joe. My email address, I already told you guys. And my password, I think Harold told me that I can leave the password blank. So I'm just gonna hit enter. Blank passwords aren't allowed. Well, maybe that was ancient history. Old version, or maybe I just don't remember correctly. I better write this down or I'm gonna forget.
Joe, you can just tell me. I'll keep track of it for you.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow. 8 characters. Oh, yes, you can bypass it. I knew you could bypass it. Bypass password validation and create user anyway? Yes. All I had to do was fail and I got around passwords. Cool. So it created my super user even without a password. So if you just put in your password as just like the number 1 and then enter, it'll tell you it's too short and you can bypass. If you want a password, great, but I don't think it's probably very important in the short term. Maybe when we have cloud teamwork, it'll be more important. But
Yeah, I've been following along, got to the same point, and it's sort of doing the same thing yours is. It's hanging on this latest command after it says the super user was created successfully. So I'm not sure about this.
it says the super user was created successfully, but then it doesn't go back to letting us run our next command is kind of what you mean. It's just sitting there like nothing has happened. The command will prompt you for the super user's name. Do not use a password that you want to keep secret. Communication between Vesper client and server is not encrypted. Okay, cool.
Oh, there you have it.
Hey, Harold knows about this problem. If the command seems to hang, producing no output for at least 30 seconds, type Control-C on your keyboard to terminate it. Cool.
That hasn't worked for me yet. That is a good trick for Anaconda and these promptings generally.
I hit Control-C and nothing happened.
Yeah, same for me.
I'm stuck too, except I got stuck with, oh, there, it finally freed up. But mine wouldn't even let me type anything for passwords. Like you'd hit any key and nothing would happen. You'd hit enter and it said, you know, blank passwords aren't allowed. So I just Control-C'd out of there and I'm back to the start. Like yours did, I guess.
Okay. I don't know if your super user created, Jacob. Mine did.
It definitely did not. I have to go anyway, but I'll pick this up later with you guys watching you finish this. But it's good to know that Control-C will take you out of there.
Okay, cool. Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just for reference for someone else who's listening to this recording, it didn't look like any passwords were happening. Like I typed a five keystroke password, but you guys couldn't see it. So it's like invisible. But anyway, maybe it's more than invisible. Anyway, let's see. Now I'm going to try to start the Vesper server. And so this is what's going to it uses this program Django to create a sort of a website where you're going to interact with Vesper on a browser. So I've done it with Firefox and with Chrome, but it seems he's recommending Chrome. So I've already set my working directory. You can tell my working directory is Crumrine archive. My environment is activated. And so now I'm going to say Vesper _ admin run server. I'm still getting this TensorFlow issue, but it seems to proceed even despite that little issue. And it says the development server on my computer is HTTP 127.0.0.1:8000. And so I think if I go here and I say HTTP 127.0.0.1, what was it? And then :8000. Haha. I have no microphone. I have no clip calendar. I have no metadata or recordings. but I have a Vesper server alive. So again, once I run server and it tells me that it started the development server at this web address, and I type that into my Chrome browser, now it starts doing stuff, and it'll keep filling the Anaconda prompt with commands as I interact with it. But once the server is running, I don't play with Anaconda prompt as much. I play with the website more, and I say, oh, import metadata or export clip counts, or delete recordings, view the clip calendar. But again, all these things don't work until we set up more stuff.
Joe, can I jump in real quick? Just for the sake of the recording, I'll just mention that for me, Control-C did not get me out of that super user thing. So if that happens, you can always just close Anaconda prompt, reopen it, and then you need to do the source activate Vesper 0.4.12, and then you also need to do the CD and then change to your directory for your template, and then you'll be good to go.
So that's activate environment and change directory to your folder location.
Yeah, it was the same steps that we did right after we finished the the environment setup. So that activates the environment and then changes your directory. So those are the same steps from the tutorial, but if you get hung up on that, that's how you get out of it.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate you saying so, and please, as you've done, help make it better for everyone. I appreciate that. Cool. So I remember doing stuff to yeah, okay. I guess I did this. Oh, I guess I didn't have to type in all those numbers. Maybe I could have just typed localhost 8000 into my browser, and that would get me there, because this is what I achieved. I guess I did it the old-fashioned way. But anyway, yeah, what I remember next is going through a process of setting up information about the name of my station. I need to have my exact latitude and longitude. I even need my elevation, because they use that for figuring out sunset times. And so yeah, I've got a whole bunch of steps. You have to figure out the sample rate of your recordings. By the way, Angela, you said, does it matter how we record it? However you record it, you have to know some things about how your recordings look. So I can talk about these one by one when we get to them. But yeah, there's a whole logic to how all this is set up that, if we're careful and thoughtful people, we would read all this really carefully and try to understand it really good. If you're like me, you just dive in and hope that you can figure it out as you go, with the learning curve on an as needed basis. So I'm expecting to see instructions here about, the metadata. So Vesper imports most metadata from text files that are in the YAML format. You can import metadata of various types from YAML files, blah, blah, blah. And so I think what we have to do is we need to be in our in our archive. And then for these station templates, we have to open them with a text browser and start to put in our information. And so I guess we have to choose. One of the files is named onestation.yaml and contains metadata for a monitoring setup with only one station. So I think that what we should do next is we should open, I went to the Chromline archive, I went to the folder called metadata YAML, and I opened the onestation.yaml, And I'm going to scroll down beneath all these ones that start with a hashtag, because that's just background reading. And then we get to name our recorder. We get to say, oh, my manufacturer of my recorder is, you know, whatever. Oh, that's the microphone. I guess my recorder, my manufacturer is a Lenovo. You don't have to put all this stuff in, but I do indeed have a 21C microphone that outputs one audio recording. But somewhere in here, yeah, okay. You have to scroll down to the part where it says station. And where it says station, I'm going to put in Crumrine. When did we start recording and when did we end recording? Holy crap, I don't know. I guess I started in 2017. And I'm not going to stop until 2028. That's when I'm going to get tired of this. So that's what I'm going to set. Set my start and end times pretty broadly. And then I don't need to change those things. I'll accept them as the default. Somewhere in here I put in Latin long, I think. Ooh, and all these guys.
Ooh, just a quick question. So the start and end time was not referring to recording time?
No, they were dates.
Okay.
It's basically going to set up a calendar, and so that can, like, if you just had a 1 month project, you could set up your dates and it would just have the calendar for those dates, and it wouldn't have more pages of calendar than you need.
Okay.
It has all this information about these classifiers. I guess the latitude and longitude.
Yeah, lat long is at the top, right there. You just.
Oh,
right
I
there.
skipped it. Thank you. Thank you. So I got to put in my name again. I have this written down somewhere else. I have my lats, I have my lawns, I have my elevation. I guess I'll spare you guys seeing me picking around in my computer for where I saved that. My description. This I can do off the top of my head. My house. Yeah, I skipped it real early in this process. Let me see. Oh, I remember. I actually have a folder on my Google Drive for Vesper. I think it's even linked in the bibliography of NFC sources. Yeah, cool. Maybe I should have reviewed this before I started talking to everyone. Look at all these notes. Anyway, I don't seem to have my lat longs really obvious. This was right at the beginning where our lat longs and our elevation were. I put in dates. Start time and end time. Start date and end date. Were these supposed to be actual times? Because in my instructions under start time, I was able to put in astronomical. Oh, that's in a different part of the YAMLs. Detection schedule folder. Okay, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. What a great recording I'm making. As I think aloud and remember things from long ago. Am I supposed to rename one station, or should I just keep it with this name? I can't remember. I think I'll keep it with this name. I'll save it right now. I'll go back and get my lat longs fixed up later. I'm going to refer quickly to this. So I'm going to import metadata. So I will be able to import enter the username and password. So I'm going to drag the onestation.yaml file and drop it into the import metadata page. So once I find my lat long and my my elevation, I'm going to drag this this little file that says onestation.yaml, and I'm going to say file import metadata, and I'm going to say my username is Joe and my password is blank. Oh my goodness. I thought I bypassed this. Might have to ask Harold for help.
Yeah, so I've been following along, and it did. I didn't leave it blank, but I did something that was really short, and it did allow it. So if you did the number one, maybe it was that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't do the number one, but yeah, okay. It allowed me to do my little password. Cool. All right. So now I'm in. So even though it didn't accept my password, it accepted my password. It told me it didn't accept my password, but it actually did. Thank you, Larry. I might not have tried it if you hadn't spoken up. So yeah, then I would be able to, and I'm kind of hesitant to drag this in right now until I get my my coordinates right. But yeah, that will bring my station information into Vesper.
So
And, yeah, go for it.
following along, that's about as far as I've made it. I did try dragging, and it puts it into the YAML format. And then I'm doing stuff without reading the instructions, so I sort of hit a wall at that point so far.
Cool. Well, that's about all that I can offer as a helper. Is me also just blindly blundering through the the clear actionable steps, and it seems to be working, and I think let me see what I have.
Yeah. So if anyone else is following along, I got to the point where I dragged it. The YAML format popped up. When I look at the tutorial, it shows a button at the bottom that says import, but when I look at my screen, I do not see that button that says import. So I might be doing something wrong still, but that's as far as I've made it.
And mine has the import button. Your PC?
I'm on PC, yeah, it doesn't have an import button, so I'm sorry about that.
That's
I'll have to do a little digging. I'll keep futzing with it.
Cool.
Oh, huh. I reloaded it, and now the import button is there. So
Nice.
yeah, I just closed the app and did the localhost 8000, and now I see an import button. And I will tell you what happens when I try dragging and dropping this thing. I didn't totally customize everything. Oh, when I click import, the button goes away and nothing happens. Maybe it worked, I'm not sure. It says status unstarted, so I'm not sure. Well, I might need to actually do some reading on this. I'm just guessing.
Come on, Google Maps. You have to let me get a lat long. There we go. I want my lat long before I import it because I don't know how easy it will be to edit post hoc. Now, in the past, I've done a Google search for
Oh, I get an idea.
how to find your elevation and gotten my elevation. Oops. Do I need my elevation? Is that elevation in feet or in meters? Did anybody notice if it's asking for elevation in feet or in meters?
It says meters.
Okay, we're scientific. 364, thanks. When I have unrehearsed presentations with no prior interaction with other people who work through the same thing, I have no clue if I'm going fast or if I'm being agonizingly slow or whatever. I'm just doing what I can. Cool. Well, I'm going to drag my one station in here. It's copied everything. And I'm pressing import. And I think sometimes you have to refresh stuff and it will say, oh, we have added these detectors. We've added this station. I didn't actually do the installation for the BirdVox detect, so I'm not going to be able to run that in the meantime.
I do have an update. Obviously, I should have read more before I dove in and tried to do this, but the log report gave me an error that said something that the station was not found. So I think that I goofed on my updating of the YAML header.
Did you change the name in a way that might have included an enter or something like that?
Yeah, it says unrecognized station and then the name of the station I was trying to create. So
I wonder if they're allowed to have spaces in the name or anything. Mine didn't have a space or any special
Yeah,
character.
I'm not sure. Maybe it was that I changed the YAML file name from one station to something else.
Ooh, maybe we're not allowed to change that.
I will change it back and see if I can answer that question.
Certain things we change and certain things we can't. Look through the contents if you wish to see how they describe the station, devices, detectors, annotations that you will add to your archive. Finally, press the import button to import the data. When you press the import data, the Vesper client creates a textual command. Blah, 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 blah. I'm scared to read about the difference between a command and execution. I don't understand. Cool. I refreshed. I got this far. So let's see what happens if I go to, aha, it's now called the Crumrine Station. There are no such clips in the archive, but I have a station now.
So I think I might have figured out my mistake, but I'm gonna confirm that before I get this recorded as possibly saying the wrong thing again. So let me see. Yeah, so I don't know what the problem was. I tried it again. I changed some names around. I think it was that in that YAML header, there's two different, like the first two sections where you can fill something in. The first says name, and then down, like if you jump down a few sections, there's station. And so when I changed it so that my name was the same as my station, it worked. So those two might need to be the same.
Ah, so I put name Crumrine here, and I also put station Crumrine, and I didn't even mention that I did that.
Yeah,
I just
so
did it in passing.
I think that those two need to be the same.
Cool. Again, my thanks for raising that. I may have done it before and not remembered it was important, but but remembered to do it. Subconscious action.
But yeah, I mean, after I made that fix, it seems to work. And now when I go to clip calendar, it actually shows me something instead of, it says there's no clips, but it actually shows me something, and it populated with the name of my station.
Nice.
Very cool.
Nice. Speaking of very cool, this is from Montana. Can you imagine having a call that you couldn't distinguish between pygmy nuthatch and long-billed dowitcher? Isn't nocturnal flight calls fun? Like clay-colored sparrow, brewer's sparrow. That makes sense. That's what the common person would consider as hard to identify. But I just love that. Spotted sandpiper, solitary sandpiper. Yeah, that makes sense. But anyway, there are ways that we can set up our annotations that are proper for our region. We don't have to fix this here. Okay, back to reading my next steps. Yeah, importing a recording. Actually, importing a recording is where I planned to end. I plan to start the next time with importing a recording and running a detector on it and all that stuff. And I think what you have to do is you have to both copy the WAV file into the right folder and also do an import job to make sure that it knows the file. So the folder where I'm going to put my my recordings, if you're getting set up for next week's meeting, you're going to be in your archive. Vesper archive template test / recordings. And so I think, does it create that folder, or do we need to put it in the recordings subdirectory by ourselves? I guess we could do the tutorial one. I'm always reluctant to do the tutorial one, and I always want to directly start to analyze my files immediately. I'll have to do a little playing with it to be prepared for next Sunday. But yeah, let's stop my presentation now. I'd like to sorry, I didn't even notice the chat. I had hidden my Zoom controls so that I could see my upper screen. But yeah, I'm gonna end my screen share. Did anybody else like Larry run into any other issues that maybe we should talk about? How do you do, Aaron? Were you attacking this process too?
I was not. I was just watching along. I'm gonna work on it while I'm at my desk at work, maybe next week or this week.
Okay, cool. I just didn't know if everything was like going smoothly or if you were just watching, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Did your reboots help you, Angela?
No, I gave up. There's some other issues going on my desktop right now, so I'll have to figure those out this week. I do have one quick question. Is there any disadvantage with using MiniConda over the full version Anaconda?
No, I think they're roughly equivalent. I noticed that when I installed the regular Anaconda, it instantly figured out all by itself, like, do I have a 32-bit machine or a 62-bit machine? It downloaded the right version for Mac versus Windows. Like, a lot of the early stage steps for the installation were automatically done for the regular Anaconda, whereas for MiniConda, it was asking me to choose which installation version I needed was appropriate for me. So
Okay.
yeah.
Does anybody have any theories on why the Anaconda installer failed for me?
Well, I think the only thing that crossed my mind was if you were short on disk space, and if you had more than 60 GB, that shouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm always scared that when the computer is choking its way through its updates and it's really behind, I'm always afraid things are going to be glitchy until I've re-updated a couple times and it sort of settles, and then do something important to it. So, I might try again,
And well, before I try installing Anaconda again, should I uninstall MiniConda?
Yeah, I wouldn't do both.
Okay.
So if you got MiniConda to work,
Yeah.
and it offers you an Anaconda prompt, I would try to just go with it. Yeah, I know that Anaconda tries to be smart. Like, there can be situations where if you're running Python and you have different versions that they fight with each other and whatnot, but that's why Anaconda has its environments and stuff. Like, you create an environment and then everything you do in that environment will be unified. And if you ever go to do another project, you start a new environment, and so that those two Pythons won't touch each other, and it's designed to make it so that it's not running into those kind of problems. But I think you should only need one Conda installation, and it doesn't matter if it comes from MiniConda or just plain old Anaconda, and you know that it worked if you're on Windows and you can search here and you search. I think even if you use the MiniConda installer, it will still give you an Anaconda prompt. And when you're on this Anaconda prompt, then you can start doing all the steps of the earlier part of this recording.
Yeah, and Joe, like that, you hit the nail on the head. Like, that is the purpose of Anaconda, is it's like each of these environments is because, like, in this space, in this machine learning space, the technology evolves so fast that, like, backwards compatibility isn't something that's really maintained. So you can end up with a new version that requires, like a new version of TensorFlow might come out where the old files are completely incompatible. So if you have a trainer, like a classifier built on the old version, you need the old version of TensorFlow for it to work. And so that's what Anaconda can do for you. And you provide it instructions of exactly what version of Python, what version of TensorFlow that all work with each other. But I've used Anaconda enough to recognize certain things, but not enough to feel like I'm even close to an expert. And I've like bumped into issues where it just won't let me activate an environment, and I uninstall Anaconda and I reinstall it, and all of a sudden it's working again. So it takes a certain amount of persistence to get these things to work, and I'm not knowledgeable enough to always know what goes wrong, but stick with it. And I think uninstall and reinstall is always a good option to try. It might not solve the problem, but at least you're starting from a clean slate.
Yeah, and I always want to do things like that before I ask Harold, because just like there are some like really dumb solutions, like uninstall, reinstall, reboot your computer a couple times, like those kind of things is like, okay, I can remember to do those, and if it still doesn't work, then bother Harold more. So yeah, I'd say give that a whirl. And whatever. Yeah, Harold's really nice. So like every time I've asked him, he's taken the time to, try to figure it out. And, he wants to see how to get people over these hurdles so that he wants to see a community of Vesper users emerge. And I have to say, getting over the initial learning curve, like that persistence, like is so worth it, because analyzing, like the only time I've ever analyzed a whole season of flight call data all night, every night for a whole entire season was only because of Vesper. I've never done it, in my lightest schedule, springs or falls. I never did a tenth of it, except with this. So, it really offers you great power that you would never have otherwise. So
Yeah, half the battle really is just getting it to open. Like that's at least half of the battle, and that's true for anything I've ever done that runs a TensorFlow model in Anaconda.
And not only half the battle, but the part of the battle that sucks, because the battle of going through cool bird sounds is not hardly any fight. It's fun, but learning how to get the damn thing to run. Yeah. Ian. Oh, is Ian using his hand raise function because he wants to talk?
Oh yeah, and I never do it at work either. It's amazing. So I'm trying to wrap my head around BirdNet Pi and what that would do versus what Vesper does. Like why Vesper? Why not BirdNet Pi? Yeah, is it more? I'm assuming it's more like Vesper's creating some sort of database on your computer and storing everything. But I'm not exactly sure what BirdNet Pi does with your recordings.
I don't know anything about BirdNet Pi.
Yeah, I'm assuming that has to do with the Raspberry Pi, which is that's a piece of hardware. It's basically a teeny tiny little computer. And so I don't know what BirdNet Pi is, but BirdNet is the classifier that's put out by, I think it's Cornell.
Yeah, no, it is running on a Raspberry Pi, but you can do stuff with that. Like some people get it to forward it to the web to like this bird weather thing, right? And other people, I guess, are sending it to some servers they have, right? So I guess Vesper is actually storing it in a database that's a little more accessible. But I think BirdNet Pi can make your eBird reports for you. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious because, yeah, it's going to run the same detector, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah. My imagination is that probably BirdNet Pi, whatever, you could use a Raspberry Pi or any computer, any computing hardware to run these models on sound and save lists of, I annotated at this time that this little sound segment matched the sound of, this.
The advantage with it is it's running real time, right? Which I guess might not be that interesting, but you can wake up in the morning and find out if it's been a busy night before, right? So I think there's and with technology, there's no reason why we couldn't be running this stuff real time. But I guess it all comes down to what are you doing with it after you've identified it, and can you go back and reclassify it yourself, right? Like,
right. I mean, I view the main thing that Vesper is trying to do is to create a nice interface for you to look through what the classifier says it was and review and correct it. So it'll make a list of sounds that it considers as candidate calls, and you go through and hopefully we'll get some of this next week, and you go through and you click on this one is not a bird and this one is a bird, or if you want to, you could say this one is a Swainson's thrush or whatever. And then now you're getting a table that is human confirmed Swainson's thrushes and human rejected non-bird sounds and whatnot. And all that's in a table that's in a very convenient format for us to send back to Benjamin for him to update his models. It's that we can, be in a communication with each other, and that you can generate eBird checklists. Like Richard has a script that will take his list of annotations with Vesper and automatically build an eBird checklist and upload it, and easy peasy. So that kind of thing is useful. I guess it's just trying to put together all the steps. And yes, I definitely asked, I probably have said this to you before, but I asked Harold, can we set up a script that is scheduled each morning to run, our favorite detector, when the new detector is released, and it'll run the detector, save the clips into a folder, and I want my computer, which is right here beside my bed, to play all of the sounds that were birds, at a certain hour in the morning, and that'll be my alarm clock. That's the goal that I'm working towards. And I think it's literally very close to possible, because Harold said that you can schedule a command to run in Anaconda. So if you already have, saved your sounds into a folder, you can run another script that will say, okay, let's run this detector, and it'll be the commands that Vesper does, and you can do it with no hands by a scheduled script. So I assume that's going to be possible. It might be a little wonky.
I think BirdNet Pi does it too.
Yeah. Is there any resources or information about BirdNet Pi that can be plopped in the chat?
Well, there's a GitHub site.
Oh, there is. Okay.
Yeah, if you put it in, you'll find it. I don't know much about it. Like, I'm just like I do everything manually, and last fall just kind of killed me. It wasn't fun anymore. So I've decided I'd rather birdwatch than sit on my computer. So this fall, I plan to switch, like mid-August, switch to an automated solution. So I'm just kind of curious. And I have had Vesper before, but I just found it a bit awkward working through the clips, like because I've been doing it manually so long, then you kind of get everything in context. Like if you got multiple birds calling, you can kind of see, oh, this one matches that one, so there's actually two. You can kind of count how many times they call. Whereas when they all get chopped up into little bits, you don't have that same zoom in, zoom out capability, right?
Yeah, you definitely lose resolution on how many birds we're calling.
Yeah.
But I think that our estimates are always crappy anyway, because if there's 3 flying together, you can't hardly tell.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, just taking a quick look at the Git page, it looks like BirdNet Pi runs only the BirdNet model, which is a great model. It's an open source model, but it's not trained specifically on flight calls. And it doesn't look like it has one of the things that appeals to me about Vesper is the project management aspects of it and the sort of the slick user interface. So I don't know.
That's kind of
I don't know enough about BirdNet Pi to really say that's like for certain not something that BirdNet Pi offers.
Yeah, like I think that's the advantage of Vesper, right? Like it's putting it into a database for you to access at any time to claw back through all your recordings from, right? And I'm sure with BirdNet Pi you could do that, but you're going to need to develop your own code, probably. I'm assuming, right? But it's BirdNet, so the new BirdNet NFC detectors, I'm assuming, will be available through BirdNet Pi eventually.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
The Raspberry Pi aspect seems like it's really distinct also, because you're basically creating a device that you can stick outside that records birds and tells you in real time what they are. So that hardware component seems like a really important.
Yeah, well, I thought it'd be pretty cool to plug in 2 microphones. You could switch from your directional mic at night to like a omnidirectional different mic during the day. I thought that would be pretty neat using the USB. Like I used to record from a shotgun mic through a preamp to USB. Now I just go straight to a recorder, but to my computer, right? So that would work perfectly with Raspberry Pi. I just need the Raspberry Pi. But I like with that. I like it. Like it seems to be ahead in terms of that bird weather site you go to, like when you set up a Raspberry Pi, Burnett Pi, you can have it send your recordings to a central server. And if you log in, if you just Google bird weather, you can log in and you can click on stations and you can see like each station. This is recorded 26 species today, and you can see which species, how many detections for each of those species. You can't do anything else. Like you can't get to the individual recordings, which is where Vesper would really, where I think Vesper has the leg up for us. But I think it's interesting. It's kind of a different approach to the same thing. I love that it's real time. I love that you can wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I got 100 white-throated sparrow last night. And then you can hear them all on the ground. Like I think that's pretty cool.
It's an exciting time to be doing this kind of work and just to be interested in this kind of stuff.
Agree. If you saw me sharing screen, it's an archive of calls that Bill Evans has classified. That's linked from the Old Bird website. But anyway, you can see how after you've done this work that you can flip through and see all your white-crowned sparrows, and you know if you're getting into, oh, I want to review how well I classified my Vesper sparrow versus X, you can go through and look at them. So anyway, if you want to pick around at what a published Vesper archive looks like, you go to the Old Bird publications page and then click on the Niagara Ocean Lighthouse Acoustic Study, and then click on the call archive and enter the archive, and then you can mess around. The main thing that I do, I usually don't mess with, there's all these different stations. What I mainly do is I just change which species we're looking at, and you can see, okay, we got cedar waxwings only on 2 particular dates. But yeah, you can see, the exact time that they happened that night and everything. So that's where we're going. I would love to have a, if the detector, if the hardware of a BirdNet Pi was like, exactly the minimum that you need to record sound and run the detector and export the clips. I mean, that just sounds really smart, like just saving electricity. Like sometimes I think, do I need to run a whole laptop all night to just run this one task? Like, is it over hardwared? So, I really admire that as well. So anyway, if anybody gets good with BirdNet Pi and puts it to use, I think that would be a great topic for a future Zoom presentation. Anyway,
I have to jump off. This has been so great, though.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for putting this together.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to jump off myself. Great to meet you, Larry and Aaron and Angela. Thanks for being here and pleasure talking.
Yeah, thanks for offering this. It's really gonna help me immensely. So this is, like I said, I'm brand new to this, especially to coding and things like that. Just a quick question: how can we access the recording of the Zoom meeting?
So I'll right in the same part of Facebook where we were chatting before, I'll drop the link.
Perfect. Great. And then will you also provide updates on when the new version of Vesper comes out and BirdBox as well?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So yeah, Harold told me by April 30th for real.
Okay, for real. Fantastic.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks again for doing this, and it was nice to meet everybody, and I'll see everybody next week.
Cool.
All right. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for this.
Yep, my pleasure.
Joe.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. All right. Appreciate it.